Brain expert. He is Mr. Arun Subramaniam. He is a cognitive science and implicit teaching specialist. He does. He helps trainers, coaches, and mentors, not mentees, mentors, to enhance their capability to engage, influence, and transform their participants, coaches, and mentees. He also helps business professionals and business leaders with their presentation techniques on the online platform to gear up for the accelerated growth in the digitized world. Remember, the way you present will help you scale your business, and every presentation makes you a leader. That's what he helps you to become. And he's also a success coach, mentoring professionals to increase their performance, create an identity for themselves, and transform into influential leaders. Don't we think this is the need of the hour? And you're at the right place at the right time, people, because this gentleman comes with 40 plus years of experience, at different positions in the corporate industry, as well as a CEO. And let us hear from him what he has to say for all of us to help us understand what are the multiple streams of incomes and how one can improve their earning capabilities. Without much to do, may I request Mr. Arun Subramaniam to take over the stage, and over to you, Mr. Subramaniam.
Thank you, Suma. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to today's afternoon session. Let's start.
वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वक्रतुंड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Intention drives energy. Let us create within ourselves the intention to attain the highest possible level of expertise in whatever we do, in whichever area we wish to excel. And may Lord Ganesha remove all the obstacles in our way to achieving our objectives. Friends, you'll all agree with me if I say that we are going through one of the most disruptive periods that mankind has ever seen. The world, as we know, has been a victim of a huge disruption, leading to some very drastic changes brought on by the pandemic. For you and your family, may I request everyone to kindly mute themselves? For you and your family, the pandemic has created three major challenges. The first of them being safety. How to keep yourself and your family safe is a major challenge that you are facing. The second is of income. How to secure your income in this period of severe disruption. Companies are closing down, downsizing. Businesses are facing shortage of funds, irregular receipts of receivables, and cash crunch has made life very difficult for businesses, corporates, and all that is reflecting upon the employees. And the third and the most severe and long-lasting one is digitalization of the industry. Digitalization started quite some time back, but got seriously accelerated during the last 2 years of the pandemic. So fast that McKinsey, the world's #1 consultancy in the world, has observed that the future of work after COVID-19 is going to be very different. As per McKinsey Global Institute, the future of work is fast changing, and new and more sophisticated skills are necessary to survive what is going to be the new normal. Be you a professional, a trainer, or a self-employed person, there is going to be a big call on you to adjust to the changing job market. And the biggest challenge of all these has been the world going online. It's only because of the world going online that premier institutions have started teaching online presentation techniques to their students. But then there are some very severe challenges in the online platform, because it is not the type of learning that we are all habituated to. No wonder Harvard is calling it a weird place. Virtual presenting is weird. If Harvard were to step in, would Stanford be far behind? Stanford has started giving classes on tips for giving effective virtual presentation. And with Harvard and Stanford coming in, MIT Sloan has started talking about how to make your virtual presentation so good that you shine on the virtual platform. It's only because of the world going online that all the premier institutes have taken virtual presentation very seriously, because that is how you are going to be, communicating with each other in the future. But to understand what has changed, we need to understand how adults used to learn till before the pandemic. Adult learning before the pandemic was explicit learning. The teacher or the speaker used to stand on top of the class and serve us with information. And even in trainings, meetings, that's what we do, isn't it? One individual stands up and starts talking and gives the information, and the others note it down, ensure that they retain the information, and when asked upon, they recollect and recall it and serve it back to us. That is how the world has been judging how good we are. But that is not going to be working anymore. What has changed now is that the world has gone online. And for most who have limited experience and expertise online, it is not always clear what to do, and unless intentionally planned for, many of the invisible supports they may have taken for granted has disappeared. The familiar cues and routines have disappeared, causing massive confusion, creating serious challenges. What are the 3 biggest challenges on the online platform? The first of them is you don't know what sticks in the mind and what does not. Just imagine the challenge that I'm facing now. There are 25 people on the platform, and all of them are behind a screen, and I cannot see any of them. And you can hear me and possibly see me on a 1 and a 1.5 inch box at the right-hand top corner of your laptop. How do I know what will stick to your mind? What will not? How do I hold your attention? What kind of stimuli do people hook on to, and why do they neglect others? And finally, why are some broad classes of associations formed with ease and others only with labored trial and error? Because on the online platform, explicit communication fails. It does not work. What works is the implicit form of communication. What works is the implicit form of communication. To understand this implicit form of communication, which is so very essential in these days of hybrid learning, it is necessary for us to briefly understand how the human brain works, how this highly evolved organ for the human brain works. The human brain is a complicated creative information processing system. As technology advanced from the primitive to the modern, some of the metaphors which I used to explain the human brain to a layman was, first it was called as, being like a wax tablet on which information got engraved. As time passed, they started talking about it as being like a papyrus. Then came a book, and today it is being compared with a computer. As you learn about the brain, keep in mind that the usefulness of these metaphors is limited and can lead to erroneous conclusion. But one thing that we definitely know about today is that information processing starts with inputs from the sensory organs. These inputs like touch, heat, sound waves, photons of light are all converted into electrochemical signals. These signals pass through an attention filter that is controlled by the context in which you pay the attention. The attention filters which work are purely contextual in nature. From there, you move on to the question of storing this information which passes these attention filters. And then finally, there is a retrieval system. Let us understand very briefly, as per the mandate of this program, how these things work. The sensory inputs. The sensory information is repeatedly transformed by the algorithm of the brain in both a bottoms up and a top down processing system called chunking. In cognitive science, it's called chunking. For example, when you are looking at this picture of a black box bottoms up, processing puts together very simple information such as the color, the orientation, the borders of the object, and where the borders of the object meet and the colors change significantly over a short space, and that helps you decide that what you're seeing appears to be a box. The top-down processing uses the decisions made at some of the steps of the bottoms-up process to speed up your recognition of the box. Top-down processing in this example might help you identify the object as being a black box and not a hole in a black background. Once these inputs are processed, we come to the processing part of it. The processing, for example, is done contextually. Let us assume that you have gone to an interview. In the interview, you look down and you see your shoes. You immediately observe whether it is shining properly, whether the lace is tied, and what sort of an impression that it will create in the minds of the interviewers who will see you. You might immediately observe the crease of your trousers. In other words, you will only see those things which your attention filter will focus on contextually and not other things not relevant to the time. You enter into a crowded room, suddenly you hear your name being spoken in some corner of the room, you immediately catch it. While there is a big buzz of conversation going on, your name stands out significantly in that crowd. That is called contextual processing of an auditory stimuli. That brings us to the information storage. Information storage can also be called as memory. There are different types of memory. You have the long-term memory, responsible for the storage of information for an extended period of time. Then you have got the short-term memory, that is primarily called a primary or an active memory, which is held in the neocortex for about a period of 3 to 20 seconds maximum. Then you have got semantic memory, a type of memory involving the capacity to recall words, concepts, numbers, which is essential for you to use and understand language and information. Then you have got the episodic memory. Memory is a long-term memory that involves the recollection of specific events and situations, like the first day in college, the first day you met your spouse, your honeymoon, when you graduated and got your first job, your first salary, all these things form the collection of the basket called the episodic memory. That brings us to the next one, the sensory memory. What is sensory memory? Sensory memory is one of the several memory types that make up your ability to recall what you see or hear or feel or touch. The memory, which has got significant role created by sensations attached with emotion. Then comes the explicit memory, is the conscious, intentional recollection of factual information or previous experiences called explicit memory. And finally, you have got the procedural memory, which is a part of the implicit memory system. That is where you are able to unconsciously do things and can affect thoughts and behaviors. One of the most common form of procedural memory is allowing people to perform tasks without conscious awareness, like driving a car, which is otherwise known as automaticity or muscle learning, is all a part of procedural memory. What got Nadia Comaneci at 10 and so many gold medals in the Olympic was procedural memory. That brings us to the most important aspect, retrieval. How do the memory which is stored accessed? Remembering past events is not like watching a recorded movie or a video. It is rather a process of reconstructing what may have happened on the details the brain chose to store and was able to recall. Recall is triggered by a retrieval cue, an environmental stimuli that prompts the brain to retrieve the memory and reconstruct it. Evidence shows that the better the retrieval cue, the higher the chance of recalling the memory. The key here is a retrieval cue. What sort of a cue you are using to retrieve the memory is the key to it. So you see, supposing you were to ask a person, for example, whether a red car had left the scene of a hit and run incident, the person at a later stage during the questioning, he may even say that there was a red car in that point. That means even if there was no red car, the earlier question might have planted the idea in the person's memory that there was a red car. In cognitive science, this is called anchoring an idea by priming the object. Let me give you an example. This lady here is Amy. Now, I'm sure you all experienced this for some variation in your life. We go to a party and suddenly we see someone in a distance. The person looks at us, waves and smiles. We also wave and smile, but we simply cannot remember the name of the person or where we have met the person, how we know the person, how that person is related to us. Our entire party is spoiled because we spend the entire time avoiding the person. And the funny part of it is we never meet that person again in that party. Possibly because that person again has not been able to recall who we are and he is also avoiding us. Memory is a very, very peculiar thing. You know, here is the issue. The brain stores information contextually. When our brains are exposed to a new information, if we can find the context for that information, it will stay within us. Otherwise, we will not be able to recollect it. The brain works something like a Velcro. New information is like the hook. And old information is present in our mind in the form of a loop. If the hook finds a loop, then it connects. But if the hook finds no loop, it doesn't. Now let us see how this works. Now, how many of you remember the name I gave to this lady? Can anyone tell me?
Amy.
Huh?
Amy.
Correct. The lady's name was Amy. Now, I have a problem remembering her. So what should I do? What I do is very simple. The moment I see her and I hear her name, I create an image of Emmy receiving an Emmy award. Don't worry, she has not received the award. It's a Photoshop picture for the purpose of this program. Now, I think of her as receiving the Emmy award, and the moment that happens, now there is a hook. Emmy award and Emmy, it stays in my mind. This is profoundly important because this aspect of theory gives rise to one of the most important principles. How to remember information. So in a program, how to create an association between your information and insight to plant it permanently in your audience's mind is very, very important. Create an association. Now, all these things about the mind and the cognitive science has been found out only in recent times. But the funny part of it is all these are, already spoken about by this gentleman whose picture you are seeing on the screen. His name is C.S. Peirce, who lived between the period 1839 to 1914 and had already created a teaching format that had taken into account the need to teach implicitly. He created this study in early 1900. Bloom's taxonomy, which is the foundation of education for quite some time, was propounded between 1953 and 1957 under the leadership of Benjamin Bloom. Peirce propounded the community of inquiry, which was further modified by Dewey and brought to the notice of the world. The community of inquiry of Charles Sanders and Peirce has three sides. Number one, the cognitive presence. What is this cognitive presence? We will see. The second is the teaching presence. The third is the social presence. Let us start with the cognitive section of the Bloom community of inquiry. Cognitive section, termed as the cognitive presence, starts at defining what is the goal and direction of the learning that is to be imparted. What message you want to impart forms the first portion of the cognitive presence. What supporting discourse are you going to provide as a proof for the information that you are giving? There has to be a supporting discourse. You just cannot say anything and everything. And finally, how you are going to regulate the movement of this learning is the part of the cognitive presence. That means the cognitive presence comprises of three parts: the objective of what you want to teach or give as a learning, how you are going to support that discourse, how you are going to regulate the learning. That brings us to the teaching presence. The teaching presence, the first part is the regulated part of the goal that has been mentioned. How that regulated part of the goal is aligned to the objective and the goal of the teacher forms a part of the teaching presence. And what sort of a climate is the teacher going to create through which this goal is going to be achieved by him? So the teaching presence forms three units, that is the regulation of the learning, the objective of the teacher, how he wants to do it, and number three, what sort of a climate he is going to set up in which the teaching is going to be regulated. Now you see already the social presence has got two supports: the supporting discourse and the climate. The proof of everything that is being taught and the climate in which it is being taught are two sides, and the third sides of the social presence is how does the teacher create an engagement between the participants. All these three put together is a community of inquiry, and this was propounded by C.S. Peirce way back in early 1900, and today in early 20, we are using it. That means the cognitive presence, which we have seen now as having a goal, the supporting discourse, and the regulated learning, can be driven by a process. What is the process by which you are going to create a cognitive presence for your students? And what strategy you are going to adopt? The entire cognitive presence is driven by a process which gets converted into a strategy by the teacher. Now let us understand what the process is. The process to drive cognitive learning has got 4 parts. Number 1, a triggering event. You create a trigger which acts as a stimuli. This leads to the student wanting to explore further the stimuli which has been generated within him. And then through that exploration, he gets information. He integrates all that information and finally resolves what has been provided to him in bits and pieces. In other words, cognitive learning is totally a self-driven process. Implicit learning is self-driven. The student drives the process, whereas in explicit learning, the teacher was giving the information and was asking the student to recall. In the cognitive learning, the teacher only provides the stimulus and points the general direction in which the student has to go and find out the information and the learning. So explicit learning is very short-lived, it's a conscious process, whereas implicit learning is long-standing because it is an unconscious process where the student learns the things himself. The process consists of triggering, leading to the exploration by the student. He integrates all the information he has so collected and resolves the problem. Now the strategy is very clear. Pose a thought-provoking question. The teacher poses a thought-provoking question, encourages thinking in the student, clears any misconceptions as he thinks, probes responses and nudges him in the direction in which he has to go, encourages various perspectives in him, helps him make the connections, introduces new material as he is searching, and finally assists in critical thinking, which leads to the insight. These are the 8 steps, is the 8-step strategy which is taken to fulfill the process of cognitive learning. What is it? You create a thought-provoking question, help the audience to think, clear misconceptions as they move forward, probe them for their responses which are hidden deep within their mind, encourage the various perspectives which come up, help them to make the connections, introduce new material which is absent, and thereby assist them in the critical thinking to arrive at the objective, the final insight. Now, friends, what we are going to do is, we are going to do a case study, a hands-on exercise. I would like to know from you, how many of you are, accustomed to working in a breakout room? Can any one of you tell me? Can you please tell me, have you all worked in a breakout room? Are you comfortable working in a breakout room? If anyone has got any confusion, tell me, I will help you to understand what to do. Once I serve the case study to you, there are 32 people. I will divide you into 3 breakout rooms. As soon as I open the breakout rooms, on your screen will appear, host is asking you to join so-and-so breakout room. You go to the breakout room. You will find your team members there. You can discuss the case study with them. You can Google for the answers. You can do every research that you want. You'll have half an hour, and then you come back and present your finding. Any questions? Anybody has any doubt, any questions you would like answered?
Can you please tell how to move out of a breakout room and not leave the session?
Huh?
sometimes it happens that we leave the session, or sometimes we leave the complete breakout room only.
So you see, when you want to come back, you wait. When I close, you will automatically come here. And if you want to leave the breakout room before the end of the breakout room period, you will find on the right-hand side bottom, leave breakout room. If you just press the red leave, you will leave the session. If you press on leave breakout room, you will only leave the breakout room and come to the main room.
Thank you,
If
sir.
any help is required, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now, let me present the case study to you. For 3 years on a trot, in late 1960, there was a 10% slide in tobacco consumption in the United States. In late 1960, for 3 years in a trot, there was a 10% reduction in the sales of tobacco. The tobacco companies reacted by increasing the ad spend. They increased their expenditure on ad, their budget for ad, they increased, but suddenly they stopped all television and radio ads and shifted to print media towards the end of 1960s. That means before 1970, they shifted to print media. They stopped the most popular way of advertising, that is television and radio. They then released an information into the open market that they had reduced their expenditure by 67% and brought it down to only 33% by doing so. They even surprisingly supported a total ban on radio and TV for cigarettes. Even though they were the most popular effective medium, they supported the government and told them that they would support a ban on all TV and radio ads. Surprisingly, this move led to the increase in sales of cigarettes. 3 years at a time, at a stretch consecutively, there was a sharp fall of 10%. Tobacco companies increased their budget for advertisement. Then suddenly they stopped all TV and radio ads and shifted to print media, that is newspaper and magazine. Then they let out a statistics that by doing so, they have reduced their expenditure on ad by 67%, incurring only 33% of the expenditure. Then they supported the government that all TV and radio ads should be banned of cigarette smoking, consumption of tobacco, and all these things led to an increase in the sales of cigarette after that. Surprising. Now the breakout room is for 30 minutes. The question is, go and research the US tobacco industry in 1960 to 70 to get the relevant information about it. Find out what really happened. Why did the tobacco companies stop TV and radio ads and shift to print medium? What was the reason? Why did they do that? Number 3, why did tobacco companies support the ban call by the government and not fight it? They did not fight the ban call. They supported the government. They said, yes, you should ban it. Why has this case become a landmark study of coup in the field of marketing? This case study has been taken from Harvard. Why has it become a landmark study for coup in the marketing world? In all the premier institutes for MBA classes, this is taught as a major lesson. What is the lesson that they are teaching by this? After doing that research, please create a 2-minute explanation as to why this has happened. Is it clear? In the breakout room, do a research between 1960 and 70. Why did tobacco companies stop TV and radio ads? Why did they support the government in the ban? Why is this considered to be a major strategic move by tobacco companies to get back their sales? Yes, Mr. Mani, you have raised your hand. Yes, Mr. Mani, you have raised your hand. You can unmute and talk.
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, by reducing the advertisement expenditure,
Just a minute, Mr. Mani, you can go to the breakout room and discuss there and come to the conclusion with others and then come and present it here.
okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm
Okay, sir.
opening the breakout room. I would like to hear your answer. There
Okay.
is no doubt about it.
Uh,
But this is a breakout room activity. Please go there and help your other colleagues also understand. I am splitting you all into 3 rooms. I have
Okay.
created the room. I am opening the room. As soon as the room is opened, you will find on your screen, a request to join the room. Please join the room.
Okay,
I've
sir.
opened
Okay, sir.
30 minutes. Please move towards the room. All of you click on join the room. You will go to the room. In the room, you can discuss with others. Please move towards the room. Please move towards your room, please, so that you can go and discuss that. Ms. Meenu Verma, Mr. Nitin, Mr. Pachayapan, Mr. J, Ms.
Sir,
Kavita
can you
Prashant.
send it again, sir? Vanished
Who is
immediately.
it? Who wants? See, it can't be sent again. Who is it? Who
It
is having
vanished, sir.
difficulty? Who is having
Me, sir.
difficulty?
Chidambaram. Chidambaram, sir.
Yeah, I will do. Yes, Ms. Kavita, Mr. Pachayapan, Ms. Meenu, Mr. J. Can you please move towards the room? विपुल जी बहुत दिन बाद नजर आ रहे हैं, म्यूटेड हैं आप।
भागदौड़ चल रही है सर।
How is Delhi?
Delhi had become warm and again become cold.
So welcome back, everyone. Can we start with room number 1? Room number 1 can make the presentation.
Okay, sir. I think I will make it. Sir, we went through the questions which you had posed to us.
Are you sharing the screen? Are you going to put it on the screen?
Sir,
or are you
we didn't get time to put it on the. I will just read out those things which I have read.
Can you unmute your video then?
Okay, right. I will do that. Video slight issue. Yes, sir. Am I visible?
Yes. Yeah.
Right, sir. Sir, basically, this when we Googled, we found that these 19th and 60s and 70s, there was a trend wherein smoking started actually picking up. Now, when the reasons are quite many reasons were there. One of the reason was that, and I will come to the ban later. I'm giving the scenario, the context, why this happened and why the ban took place and why the tobacco industry encouraged that ban and supported the government and how the cigarette sale increased. So I'm just giving the background, the context of the 60s and 70s. So one is the cigarette was basically considered as a status and class, elegance and sophistication. Even businessmen were smoking. The cigarettes size were getting thin so that the women could also use the cigarettes. So they were becoming. And this was also a time which coincided with the liberation and independence for women. And a lot of celebrity women like Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast at Tiffany's movie and all that, they started endorsing the cigarette smoking in the movies itself. And these are very hit movies. Now, one of the reasons for all this was, very unfortunate part was that doctors and medical establishment endorse smoking. The actual harmful effects of the cigarettes were known much later, but so-called benefits were known. One was that when you have a cigarette, your nicotine level increases, so it becomes a stimuli for your thinking process. So that was one reason the doctor said that. Other reason was also weight loss. Along with coffee and cigarette can have weight loss. So people started, and they were doctors, since once a doctor say that, people will definitely do that. And not only that, it was also recommended for pregnant women to suppress.
2 minutes, Sanjay. If we continue like this, it will go on.
Okay.
Let us contain that thing. And second thing is, you are asked, have you Googled all this?
Yes, sir. It was Googled.
In 1964, Surgeon General made a very strong statement and published it that cigarette smoking is extremely injurious to health.
Sir,
so what you are talking about, what happened during the late 50s and the early 60s. Okay. 64 onwards, after Surgeon Generals, because it is a documented fact that the sales came down.
I'll tell you, sir, I mean, as per Google,
I would suggest that you bring it short, so that others also get the time to project it. Yes.
Right, sir. And then finally, the military rations also included cigarettes, and peer pressure, and since men and women were doing, all the adolescents, people were, I mean, teenage children were also smoking. So the government came with a ban that below 18, it should not, below 18 years of age, they should not smoke cigarette. Number one, and because TV and these were like more like family time together, so TVs and radios were banned. And the last show was on 1st January 1971. The 11:50 p.m. show was the last aired in TV for ad. So after that, now because of this, the tobacco industry realized that since government is banning this thing and giving us more advertisement in newspaper, which is more persistent, more people will read it, especially business folk and all that. So they supported the ban on TV and radio, but they could print, they could bring celebrity influences in the print media, and the cigarettes sales shot up because of all these factors. I mean, that's what.
Okay.
I mean, that's
I will
what,
say only one thing. Google is a universe where you got to be very careful in what you accept.
right, sir.
You know, Google as the name itself suggests garbage in, garbage out. That is lot of garbage there. You are partly right.
Yeah.
But this is not what really happened.
But one thing I can tell you, sir, what it clearly states is the medical proof for that this is really bad. It was not understood by the people then. That is clear.
Yes, you are right. That they see it is bad, and after the Surgeon General report, it started coming down. All that is documented. I will show you the documents. Don't worry.
Right.
Now, let us go on to room number 2.
Yes, sir. And from room number 2, this is Vimlesh Gopal here presenting.
Yeah.
So during 1967, the federal government, posted a ban on tobacco advertising in television and radio. Prior to that, also the tobacco sales started declining by 10%. So that is what consecutively for 3 years. So that is the case study is all about why. And post the ban, the sales started increasing after tobacco companies shifted to newspaper, print medium advertising. So why this happened? The reason number 1 is when the tobacco was being advertised on television and radio, there was also anti-tobacco usage advertisements which was being released on radio and television as well. So this actually acted against the tobacco companies in reducing the sales. So there was also a lot of campaigns which was going on, anti-smoking, anti-use of tobacco. Advertisements was also going on, campaigns was also going on. So when tobacco company, when this ban was introduced and tobacco companies stopped advertising on radio and television, the anti-smoking ads on radio and television also stopped. So the only way of so print media was the only way of advertising for tobacco products. And the other thing was the other thing was this potential ban on radio and television advertisement also worked as a barrier of entry for new brands into the market. So when these smokers, they sticked to the existing brand which they were using, and it was word of mouth or peer-to-peer kind of communication other than print media. So they stick to the brands. So this led to the barrier of potential. This acted as a potential barrier of entry for new brands. So these 2 points led to the increase in the sales of cigarettes, sales of tobacco.
Thank you. So what is the insight? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. It is a good research work done.
Thank you, sir.
You see, remember one thing. Data and information is of no use if it cannot be converted into an insight. Messaging is all about delivering insights, not information.
Okay, sir.
Okay, now let us come to room number 3.
Julie, would you like to go ahead? Can you unmute, Julie? Yeah.
Okay. So what was that, the term which sir has given?
Fairness doctrine.
Yeah, fairness doctrine. Okay, so this is basically, based on fairness doctrine, because the tobacco company, as per that doctrine, okay, I'm not able to.
Okay, okay, I'll help you out.
Wait, wait.
Can I pitch in?
Yes, yes, please, Prasad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, add.
So fairness doctrine, it's actually an attempt to ensure that all coverage of controversial issues, okay, by a broadcast state should be balanced. In other words, what we mean by this fairness doctrine is that, let's say the tobacco company, they got an opportunity to broadcast on air, to promote their product. But actually over here in this fairness doctrine, any campaign for a particular activity, it should always be balanced by a campaign against that activity. So what happened was, if a 15-minute slot was given to, let's say, Dunhill company to advertise their product, an equivalent amount of 15 minutes time was to be given for the anti-smoking campaigners speaking against smoking, the demerits of smoking. So in fact, I must, in our group, we had Julie and then we had Mani. I think I had, I'm not able to remember the other person. Gopi we had. So here, what happened was, since the company initially, they did this broadcast, but they stopped the broadcast and they went in for advertising the product in the newsprint. However, in the newsprint, this fairness doctrine did not apply over there. Okay, so there was no opportunity given to the anti-smoking campaigners to speak against the hazards of smoking. So this was one of the reasons which led to once again an increase in the sale of tobacco. Secondly, there is also a phenomenon known as loss aversion. Loss aversion is, if there is a loss of 10 rupees and is a gain of 10 rupees, I would prefer to lose 10 rupees rather than making any effort or deciding to invest more energy in trying to grab that 10 rupees. So here, the reason over here is this phenomenon of loss aversion also contributed to an increase in the sale, because the people, they experienced something, they were losing out by giving up on smoking. So they wanted to avoid the loss at all costs. And that's the reason why, once again, they went in for that particular habit of smoking.
Yes, and I want to add one line. Losses are twice as powerful as gains psychologically.
Yeah.
So what happened is, as you mentioned, Prasad, that when there was no campaign and anti-campaign for not smoking, and so they were like, they want to smoke. The sale increased. So that's the insight, I think.
Yes. So actually, it's working at the brain level.
Yes, psychologically, what they were losing, the cigarette, they can't smoke, so they were more.
They wanted to avoid it.
Yes. So they just went for smoking more. Mr. Arun,
Thank you.
have we made sense?
I'm finding a lot of interesting things, and this is only going to prove. This is only going towards proving how powerful cognitive science is.
Right.
It's a very powerful thing, isn't it?
Yes.
And it works. They checkmated the government, but still, people are struggling to understand how it was done. Now let's see. It's a very interesting case study.
Yeah.
I'm sure you will all enjoy it. And the insight is by far the most powerful insight, based on which 99.99% companies are operating today. You will realize what it is. First, pose a mystery. That is what driving a cognitive teaching is, cognitive presence is, isn't it? In the community of inquiry, we saw cognitive presence is the goal. I will tell you what is the goal of this case study in the last slide, not now. Now you see, Marlboro and last Sanjay was telling Virginia Slims. These were driving the advertisement at that time. Toughness, sophistication, manliness, beauty. being slim, all these things, you know, it was creating a huge impact. And then as a decoy, the industry said they have reduced their expenditure by 33%, 67%, as though to tell the world that by shifting from, TV and radio to print media, we have reduced our expenditure and increased our profit. Deepen the mystery. They further went, and then what did they do? They supported the government. This is in fact a picture, a real picture of the tobacco industry representative supporting the Congress to ban, advertisements on TV and radio. Why did they do that? This happened on July 22nd, 1969. In the congressional hearing, you are seeing a picture of July 22nd, 1969, US congressional hearing where the tobacco representative is supporting the ban for TV ads. We come to January 11, 1964, when the US Surgeon General Luther Terry released his advisory committee 387-page report stating that smoking is very dangerous to health. From that, the decline started. As Sanjay was observing, before that, it was considered to be the in thing to smoke. Smoking was on a rise throughout the 50s and early 60s. Then when the Surgeon General released this and told that it could cause cancer and innumerable number of problems, the sales of tobacco started reducing. And 3 years at a stretch, it continued to come down. But the question is, did the tobacco industry really remove the TV ads and the radio ads because they thought that it was really, harmful? Were they repentant? Everything they did goes against it. Because they hired actors and paid them a princely amount to promote their cigarettes. Sylvester Stallone, here you can see, was paid $500,000 in those days to smoke the cigarettes in 5 of his films. The secret for all these things lies in the Fairness Doctrine of 1967, which says that if a tobacco company were to release an ad, it should donate the same amount to the anti-tobacco lobby. And what happened because of that? This is what happened. Some people commit child abuse before the child is even born. Dying from smoking is rarely quick and never painless. All these ads started appearing in TV and radio. Outcome? There was a huge drop. Nothing the tobacco companies could do. They realized that counter arguments are more powerful and damaging than arguments in favor. The people immediately get attached to negative statements and not to positive statements. All the positive statements of you will look sophisticated, you will look handsome, you will look macho, and all these things were blown apart by the negative statements which were made by the anti-tobacco lobby. So they immediately stopped the TV ads and the radio ads, supported the government to ban. When they did that, the anti-tobacco lobby thought it was a victory for them. They sat down quietly. The government thought they have achieved what they wanted to do. They sat down quietly. And the tobacco companies went on silently promoting their product in print where fairness doctrine was not applicable. And the sales shot up. The real insight is never allow counter arguments on your platform or anywhere. Even today in the US and all the advanced countries, and even in India today, when a customer complains about a product, the company immediately replaces it without arguing. They know if they argue and it comes out, it is going to be a big problem because the public will immediately get attached to it. Is it clear, friends? Is the insight clear?
Sir, can I ask you a doubt here?
Please ask.
Sir, when you mentioned counter arguments, now, for example, in Times of India, they have a regular column weekly wherein opposite viewpoints are pros and cons of a particular hot topic is discussed, one pro and one. So in this case, will not one strengthen the other by this statement of counter
I
argument?
don't understand what you mean.
Like, sir, in those 60s and 70s, when tobacco industries,
You leave that. Now come to this Times of India example which you're giving.
so every week, Friday or Saturday, they take a topic of which is the hot issue, and ask two prominent people to speak, one for and one against, and it comes as a column, printed column. So it's like a essay type of thing. So in this case also, the cognition mechanism affects in such a way that the counterpoint reinforces the opposite.
See, the counterpoint will always get traction. Always it will get traction.
Okay.
I'll give you a simple example. How the opposition parties use it. Modi took a stand of neither condemning nor supporting Russia and Kremlin. Immediately, Congress says, stand up and be counted. What would they have done if they had been in that place?
Yeah.
Did they have any choice? So you see, what is the reason opposition parties always raise a negative flag? They know that a contrarian opinion will drive much better traction.
Okay.
Remember one thing, supposing there is a goalkeeper, he saves 1,000 goals. Will you remember him for the 1,000 goal, or will you remember him for the one goal which he allowed to go through?
Yeah, the 1,000 goals.
You will forget the 1,000 goals. You will remember him for the one goal which he allowed to go through. Diego Maradona is known for his hand of God goal, not for the other 1,000 goals he put.
Yeah, correct.
Javed Miandad is known for that one sixer he hit to defeat India, not the 1,000 sixers he has hit in his entire career. You see, the contrarian will always grab your mind.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Venkatesh Prasad has just put now in the chat box, presence is never noticed, absence is always noticed. The negative always attaches itself to your mind. That is the reason why you should never encourage contrarian or any argument. The more you argue against a point, the more that point will get embedded in the mind of the person who is arguing.
Yes, sir. I think you're right, sir, because I read this positive thinking. One negative word requires 3 positive words of compensation.
Yes. And
Right.
that too, if you are lucky.
And
So,
generally, this never
is the
happens.
insight. Now the question comes, my dear friends. By supporting the congressional thing, they defeated everything and all these things is fine. What did we do here? We made you search for the information. Owing to its intrigue-filled form, it carries a bonus. It's part of the presentational approach constituted to attract audience to the fine points of the information. Because to resolve any mystery, observers have to be aware of all the relevant details. This is what implicit learning all about. I am 100% sure that you all will go back and read the case history again very properly. Because now your curiosity has been excited. You will not be able to leave it. How does it tally with the taxonomy of cognitive learning? How does it work? The taxonomy of cognitive learning, which was propounded by Marzano and Kendall in 2007, which is the latest, based on which education is being driven, is no more the Bloom's taxonomy. Bloom's taxonomy was propounded in 1954, adopted in 1956. But now the taxonomy of educational objectives as propounded by Marzano and Kendall of 2007 states that the first process is retrieval. How do you initiate the retrieval process? You pose a problem, you pose a mystery and start the retrieval process. The brain goes into the subconscious and starts searching for information. Once it gets the information, you encourage thinking. That means you deepen the mystery. Thereby comes comprehension. You retrieve the information, comprehend it properly. When you are encouraged in your thinking and the mystery is deepened. That is what happened when I provided you with the fairness doctrine. The third thing is the analysis. Now you clear misconceptions and probe responses. The teacher clears the misconceptions and probe the responses. He doesn't give you the answer. What happens? You start considering alternate explanations to what you had in your mind. Now all these things have become a knowledge. You start utilizing this knowledge. The teacher now starts doing what? Encourages new perspectives, starts nudging you in a direction of more perspectives. He gives you a clue to correct the explanation. That comes to metacognition. You start thinking. Metacognition is thinking about thinking. You help to make conclusions by the support of critical inquiry process. You start understanding how all these things are aligned. The resolution of the mystery starts. That brings us finally to the self system, where you, by an assistance in the critical thinking, you arrive at the insight. This, my dear friend, is what happened in this breakout room activity of the tobacco lobby workshop. This is what is called implicit learning. This is one of the methods of driving implicit learning. There are many more methods. Let's see some of them. One of them is called the option restriction. In this strategy, you restrict the options for decisions and force the trainee to go in a particular direction and help him to arrive at the implicit learning. Remember one thing, implicit learning is all about the trainee finding it himself, not you serving it. Never you serving it. And you create such a curiosity in the mind of the trainee that he will not be able to leave it. He will go back to it again. This in cognitive science is called Zeigarnik effect. This was created by Selma Zeigarnik, where the loop will never close. So the trainee will again go back to research and find out what are the nuances of the subject. This one is called option restriction. The second is pacing and leading. You pace the trainee with decisions which are sequential in nature and automatically leads to the final point and creates the implicit learning. This is another wonderful strategy to ensure that your audience learn what they want themselves. The third is a serial reaction task, where you get the trainee to do the work in such a way that there is repetition at regular intervals, leading to automaticity in understanding. Automaticity has got one great advantage. Automaticity allows you to transfer a learning in one part to another part. For instance, Nadia Comaneci got gold medal in 3 different portions of the gymnastics, in parallel bar, in uneven bars, as well as in the wooden horse. Whereas you see, she had learned only balancing, but she could transfer it into all these 3 different areas. That is because of a serial task reaction, implicit learning, which was inculcated in her. Then you come to analogy and decision making, where by helping the student create analogies, you help him to arrive at decision making and learning. The final is the problem solution framework, which we have just now seen. So friends, how do you combine implicit learning with cognitive science? This is a very important question. Now see, in action, an option restriction method being used lightly so that it will enter into you. If you want your message to stick, pitch for a big idea instead of large number of small ideas. The brain does not like or cooperate to overloading. Please understand one thing. Overloading is anathema to the brain. If you really want to drive an idea, pitch a big idea instead of a large number of small ideas. Imagine that I am conveying a message to you about the seriousness of the problem of world hunger. World hunger. I Normally people would like to be seen as an expert in whatever they do. And this is one of the methods they use, that is a pie chart. Here I'm conveying that there are 800 million hungry people on earth, and this is how that is divided into various regions of the world. It's a visual image. So what happens? This image goes to the visual cortex. The visual cortex does not hold on to it. It sends it to that portion of the brain which deals with numbers, data, statistics, and information, which is the left brain. The left brain is an objective animal, very good at analysis, structuring information, and working with data. There is nothing wrong with that, excepting that it will not stick there, because nothing sticks in the left brain. Unfortunately, we tend to forget left brain data. At the same time, now see, if I were to project the same message through this picture, now imagine what will happen. The image is exactly communicating the same idea about the pain of hunger. But the moment the eye sees this picture and takes it to the visual cortex recognizes it as a human face. Immediately, it sends it to the right brain where the human faces are processed. Right next to the human face processing center is a center which processes emotion, and it processes the despair, anguish, and the pain of the child and the mother. Now you have got the limbic system overactivated. This information has been coated with emotion. It will go straight into the subconscious, land itself very strongly, and get hooked to pain and suffering. Can you imagine how powerful this is now? The simple example illustrates how implicit learning and cognitive science works together. After this single slide, you will not be able to forget now that through open restriction, I have driven the message into your mind that if you want to pitch an information, pitch a single big information and not 1,000 information. At the same time, if you want that information to stick to the mind of your audience, drive through the right brain and not through the left brain. This is how you combine cognitive science with implicit learning. Any questions?
So which means that the earlier picture of Gulliver and Lilliput, so this is more powerful way of doing it. I mean,
see, you remember it. I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
This is what is implicit learning.
So,
you connected Gulliver to one big topic and not 1,000 topics. I did not say anything.
Right. And so between Gulliver and this woman, of course, obviously people will choose women, but Gulliver is also very impactful, no, sir? Because
you see, ultimately, you are combining a message. See, this is about how do you drive message on the online platform where you have got severe restrictions.
Right.
You want to drive your message. How do you do it? And people should not hear, I told you this, so we are discussing. If I had not told you, you would have carried this message home. It would have stayed in your mind. Next time you have to convey something, you will decide, okay, I've got 10 messages. Which is the most powerful one which I should deliver? And how do I ensure that it sticks to the mind by sending it to the right brain? This is what will be the action plan, the objective in front of you when it comes to you.
So basically, it should stir the limbic or the reptilian brain, basically.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
That means cognitive science plus implicit learning drivers make impactful presentation of your information. Now the question comes, who can take advantage of this understanding in this changing ecosystem? Earlier, you see, we always used to think of meeting a person and talking to him, understanding what he wants, interacting with people, but now all that is gone. And now who can take advantage of this learning of cognitive science and implicit learning drivers to create an impactful presentation? Self-employed people. How? Supposing you are a consultant in Bangalore. You are a finance consultant or an architect or whatever it is. You are limited to the clientele of Bangalore. You are depending upon the people who live in Bangalore for your livelihood. But now that the world has gone online, if you start working online, the world is your market. You are no more restricted to Bangalore. A finance consultant can give advice on finance to any part of the world, from the Baltic to Bangalore. He can do it. Professionals. Now, remote working has become the part, the norm. And by 2025, as per Pew Research Center, everything is going to go online. That means everything is going to be remote working. In other words, you will have to convince your boss that you are doing a good job on the online platform. You have to control your subordinate and get him to work on the online platform. You'll have to collaborate with your peers on the online platform. The sooner you learn how to communicate on the online platform, the sooner you will be considered to be a go-getter and the person to go to. Your success in your corporation, your success in your day-to-day work is going to depend upon your ability to communicate on the online platform. If you are a trainer or a teacher, the entire world of offline, one-to-one training, personal training, classroom training is off now. You have to learn how to train and teach on the online platform and create impactful transformation in the minds of your participants. And finally, the most important, the knowledgeable and the experienced elders. Today you get retired, you go home. In no time, you lose respect of everybody. Why? You are not earning. You don't have anything to do. You keep calling people and they are feeling disgusted attending to you while they have work and they can't do anything about it. And you are feeling depressed. But friends, that need not be the case anymore. With the world going online and you being the most experienced and knowledgeable, you can share your knowledge with the world online. Whether you monetize it or not is your business. But even without monetizing, you can share your knowledge with everyone in this world, in every corner. You can build a community around you who will admire you, respect you, and that will bring back respect of the people in your family. You will not be without anything to do. You will be busy always. You will not feel bored. And you will depart from this world with respect, dignity, and continuing to be an earner and not a hanger-on. Because London, Paris, Tokyo, New York is all a mouse click away today. A huge opportunity has opened up for the self-employed. Reach out to the world. Strategize to make the world your marketplace, not just your city. To all those professionals, you don't have to depend anymore on one-on-one, face-to-face meeting to control or to project your career or to collaborate with your peers. You can ensure success in your career through understanding people through cognitive science, how to drive your message, understanding the basics of implicit influencing in such a way that even people don't understand it, but you will influence them. And understanding communication and engagement through presentation mastery. And if you are a trainer and teacher, this is over. Today, trainers and teachers are the most challenged people. Why? Because attendance rate is very poor. For any program, getting people is becoming hell. Quality of people attending is very poor. Inability to monetize the program. People are giving program for 99 rupees and not finding people. Inconsistent and poor earning. Unable to go international and earn big. All these are problems which Indian trainers are, facing today. But if you learn how to drive your, training through cognitive science and implicit teaching methods, You can create and conduct programs which appeal to the subconscious by understanding the science of cognition. Communicate with and engage your audience through implicit teaching strategies, those 5 strategies I was talking about. How to create them in your program so that you will be driving the message right, left, and center. Nothing will miss the target. And hold them spellbound through presentation and online delivery techniques. You will be surprised to know, my dear friends, that in India, a trainer earns 15,000 rupees a month, whereas the same trainer, if you were to go online and reach beyond the boundaries, his earning can be $4,500 a month. That is 3.3 lakh rupees a month. You will never be short of money once you learn how to use the online platform. Retired people and informed elders. Today, these people have time with. Their people at home are also not spending time with them. And all this smile hides a sad background. Is that necessary? Is the solution to spend the rest of your life with other old people ignored by your family, like all these people? No, my dear friends, you don't have to do that. I am 65. I don't do that. I don't have time. I'm busy giving programs on the international platform, and in the process, I'm earning plenty. I'm earning in foreign currency. I am always busy. I don't have to worry about whether I am popular, people respect me or not. I've got a community of 75,000 people around me. And above all, I'm busy sharing my knowledge with everyone in a meaningful manner. My 45 years of experience, I'm sharing with everyone right, left, and center. Sometimes for money, sometimes pro bono. Life is all about choices, my dear friend. You can deny the current realities of how the world is going online by sticking to your comfort zones, or you can start availing the opportunities which the situation offers. Remember one thing, it is the early bird that catches the worm. If you start on early learning about cognitive science and implicit teaching on your presentation, on the online, you can earn tons and tons of money in the relative comfort of your home, playing with your children, basking in the affection of your spouse, safe, without fear of what is going to happen next. I will show you 2 things now. You tell me. Here is a person. My dear friends, unmute and tell me, is he drowning or is he swimming? What is he doing? Is he drowning or is he swimming?
Swimming, sir.
Swimming. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to answer? Is he drowning or swimming? You are unable to make up your mind, is it?
Swimming, sir, swimming.
Swimming?
Drowning.
Huh?
Drowning.
Drowning. So you see, we have 2 people saying swimming, 2 people saying drowning. Now let us see what has really happened. The man has drowned. He was drowning. How does swimming look? Swimming looks like this. Where did the confusion occur? The confusion occurred because swimming and drowning has the same set of activities. In both the cases, you try to keep your head above water. You beat your hands and legs on the water. So it is very difficult to find out whether a person is drowning or swimming if you don't look very carefully. And when you look carefully, you realize that a person who is drowning is panicking. He is distressed. He is beating the hand without signs or rhythm. Whereas a man who is swimming, he is doing it in a systematic fashion, confidently, patiently, without hurry. And in the first case, the platform on which he is doing it, the water pulls him and kills him. Whereas in the second case of the swimmer, the platform on which he is doing the water supports him and takes him to safety, and he enjoys it. The online platform is very much like that, my dear friend. If you know how to present through cognitive science and implicit learning, it will lift you to prosperity, fame, and popularity. If you don't, people will ignore you and it will be a disaster. You choose between disaster and drowning or popularity and prosperity. Cognitive science and implicit techniques have got the table has got 4 chairs. The first is the content to deliver insights. Why did I write content to deliver insights? Because it is not content which is important. It is the insights which come out of the content which is important. We have seen in the case of the tobacco industry, the insight, that contrarian opinion sticks to the mind more, so avoid it, more important than what really happened. What happened was incidental, but the insight is permanent. Once you work in your business through that insight, you will always succeed. Now, how do you deliver this insight? You require a good presentation deck, the instructional designing. Then comes, how do you deliver it for maximum impact? You must have observed that my slides always come after I speak, never before, because light travels faster than sound. If my slides were to come first, you will start reading the slide and concentrating on the slide, and you will not hear anything I say. But when my slide comes afterwards, you listen to me, and that is reinforced by the slide. And finally, okay, you have created all that. You now need to market yourself and the product. All these 4 constitute the cognitive science learning. The cognitive science and implicit learning consists of adult learning principles, the neuroscience of learning, Bloom's taxonomy, Bloom's and cognitive taxonomy, the questions, that is anthropophora. I'm not talking about general questions, anthropophora, which will help you to develop a community of inquiry and delivery techniques. The community of inquiry, and finally the nudge theory, for which Richard Thaler got Nobel Prize. The entire cognitive science and implicit learning is based upon the teachings of 2 major neuroscientists and cognitive scientists, that is Daniel Kahneman, who got a Nobel Prize in 2002, and Richard Thaler, who got a Nobel Prize in 2011. The content curation contains concept selection and validation, structuring of your program, slicing and compacting of messages, primacy and recency effect, the baiting and looping, transitioning, priming the object, opening, body, and closing. All these are content curation. The instructional design consists of presentation deck techniques, need analysis, cognitive bias demystification, narrative grammar, video and audio postcasting, so that you can attain SME status, proposal writing, and finally the facilitator guide, which will help you deliver. That brings us to the delivery. The delivery contains online delivery secrets, language, the visual management by which you will be able to deliver effectively, the technology through which you are going to deliver, and finally engaging the audience. Engaging the audience does not mean asking them to write in the chat box or asking questions. Engaging audience means getting them to participate actively in your program in their mind. Having done all these, you will also learn about marketing, the essentials of marketing, selling without money, social media mastery, and SME status. Finally comes the strategy. How do you break into the corporates? How do you strategize growth timeline? How do you build a community? And how do you build your program? Additional information which will be given are the pitfalls of the technology platform that you are using. the technology platform itself, grooming, and finally etiquettes. In this program, Diploma the Master Trainer, you will get over 100 hours of hands-on practice with the faculty. The Diploma the Master Trainer duration, course duration is from 15th of April to 2nd of September 2022. A total of 240 hours. 240 hours, my dear friends. It is not 1 or 2 hours. Every Friday evening, 7:30 to 10:30. Saturday evening, 7:30 to 10:30. Sunday evening, 7:30 to 10:30. And optional Wednesday practice session, 7:30 to 10:30. 240 hours, 5 months, 3 days a week, evening 7:30 to 10:30. Wednesday is optional practice session. And what do you get in addition? Lifetime membership as a DMT alumni. That is Diploma the Master Trainer Alumni Lifetime Membership Group Learning. You will learn with a group of experts on the online platform who have become experts through learning the Diploma the Master Trainer course, how to conduct trainings and teachings and communication through the science of cognition and implicit learning. Template for effective implementation. The entire video recording of the course will be available to you. A certificate certifying that you are an international master trainer now, and you'll be networking with like-minded people. In addition to this, select participants who excel in the program will be given gold membership. What does this gold membership entail? Lifetime free admission to all Diploma the Master Trainer courses in future. Out of 48 members of Diploma the Master Trainer batch, current batch, 30 people have got gold membership. That means for life, they can attend all Diploma the Master Trainer courses conducted from now onwards. And no charges. Second thing is they will get an opportunity to work with me as a faculty member in my various courses. They will get first preference for all training and consulting assignments that come to me. I receive a lot of training and consulting assignments, and I pass it on to all Diploma the Master Trainer participants and certificate holders. All gold member courses will be promoted by VAC Solution without cost. You create a course, VAC Solution will promote it and support it without any extra cost. I have a community of over 75,000 people. This will be promoted to over 75,000 people. VAC Solution facility and platform will be available to all gold members at a discounted price. Now comes the key question. What is the value? Now I will ask you a question, my dear friends. Can you tell me the difference between price and value? Which of you will tell me the difference between price and value? Anyone would like to try? Silence. So you want to know only the price. You are not interested in anything else.
Price what you will charge, and value what we will receive.
Correct. Price is what you pay. Value is what you get. I have told you the value of this program. The value of this program is lifetime earning on the international platform for you. You need not struggle for 999 rupees anymore in India while the entire world is available to you. We saw that a trainer operating in the international market can earn in lakhs. This is available to you through this course, Diploma the Master Trainer. And the fee structure for these 5 months courses, one-time payment of 60,000 rupees. If you want to pay in installment, it is 75,000 rupees at 15,000 rupees per month for 5 months. All that you need to do is register now by paying 2,000. The balance amount can be paid later, before the course begins. Early bird discount of 5,000 is there. If the balance amount is paid by 10th of March, you need to pay only 53,000 rupees more. the total fees, including registration, in that case is only 55,000. The link for the registration will be posted in the chat window. Razorpay, Google Pay number and PayPal link is available for international participants. For international participants, the registration fee is $26. Welcome to Diploma Master Trainer. My contact number is 938409786. Now I'm going to paste the link. Those of you who are interested in registering can register immediately. If there is any question, I am ready to take it. Is there any question from anyone? The link has been posted. If you are interested, you can immediately register by paying 2,000. The balance can be paid later. If anyone wants to discuss with me, you can post your number in the chat box. I will get back to you.
Mr. Arun, as a participant, can I just give my views for a minute, or is it allowed or not?
Yes, tell me, Mr. Chidambaram.
Yeah, I am, sir, I am a participant of your batch 1. I gained immensely and learned a lot. So I am planning to refer this program to many of my friends. I'll talk with them. And I have gained a lot from you personally and from the other trainers and my batch, because it's, as you said, collective learning. Thank you very much for the kindness.
Thank you. Any questions? Has anyone got any question? Yes, Mr. Mohammed, you would like to talk to me personally?
Yeah.
Where are you from? 880 Sri Lanka?
From Bangladesh. From Bangladesh.
Huh? Bangladesh. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Sure. I will call you. No issue.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If there is no questions, then we can close the session. Or you want me to give you a window of 5 minutes to decide whether you should register or not, or ask any question or not. I think there is no more questions, so we will close the session. Thank you all for coming. It was very nice hosting a Sunday afternoon for you. Have a good day.